emergency. We all want to stay well. Thank you all for coming. I'm glad to see you here. And when Brother Larby comes, I will introduce all of you to him. He's our new high counselor. Tonight's training, and so I'm hoping that more of our lead consultants will come and more of our staff, but I'm glad for those of you who are here. And so tonight for training, I have 3 main things I want to do. First, I wanted to hear success stories in your own wards, and I had asked Brother Morris if he would do one of them, but he's not here yet. But when he comes, hopefully he'll tell us about that. The second thing is to go over our goals and our calendar for next year. And then third, because next year has to do with the census, I'd like to teach just a little bit about the census. So those are the 3 things. But first of all, and it's going to be really short if no lead consultants come to share information. But any of you, have you seen any successful things in your own wards that you'd like to share?
Yeah, we're having a temple night this week with the youth, doing baptisms for the dead. And we're also, let's see, we introduced it in our Relief Society and Elders Quorum, and planning activities at least once a quarter.
Well, let me just tell you, you're getting somebody awesome in your ward. You already took our Brother Hopkins. You already took the whatchamacallits, and now you're getting Wes Marriott and his wife. He was our lead family history consultant in our ward and did a lot of cool things. So they just bought a place in your ward. They're moving over there. So nice. Man, your ward's going to be on fire.
Yeah. And my boys are all getting the priesthood next year.
Really?
Deacon, teacher, and priest. So
that's great.
Yeah.
Your boys probably support the ward as far as the young men are concerned.
Yes, they do. And I gave a talk tonight at the priesthood preview. And I encouraged them to come to the Family History Center.
How good for you, Diane. You're awesome. Anybody else have some cool things from their ward?
My brother is the new family history lead in his ward.
Awesome.
And he told me that last week at the end of Sunday school, whatever they were discussing in Sunday school, he said, "Oh, and I would like to remind everybody, since I'm the new family history lead, that we should each do something between now and Christmas on our family history." And he named several things. Then he called me and he said, "Now, how do I get on Ancestry?" So I was pleased about that.
Yeah. Well, we're having a fun thing next week. Brother Marriott, who I just said was going to Diane's ward, was our lead consultant all year, and he had things every quarter, goals for every quarter. And then he'd have a drawing for whoever completed those goals and give them a DNA test. We're going to kind of copy that a little bit next year with as far as giving away DNA tests. But our final one is to take a name to the temple. So next Sunday, we have a big activity where it's a fireside, but we're inviting families to come, and they'll have booths in the cultural hall for how to get started, games. We even have an area for the kids. And then I'll be in the chapel teaching how to find names. So it's been pretty successful in our ward. He's been really good with drumming up business, you might say. So our loss is going to be your gain, Diane.
Excellent.
In the one ward in our stake, they had an emphasis on getting to know your 8 grades.
I think that's Brother Morris that I asked
Maurice.
him.
Yes.
Maurice. I asked him to talk at this meeting, but he's not here.
Well, maybe I won't tell all about it until.
No, tell it just in case he doesn't come.
Well, he not only encouraged everyone, and he would, when he talked to somebody, in the hall or whatever, he would say, "Now, Tell me about who your 8 great grandparents are. Do you know who they are? Tell me something about them. And then they had a Day of the Dead party for their ward. And different people brought pictures of one of their ancestors to put on the wall. And I think that people could bring, for the potluck dinner, I think people could bring something that was from their family, a recipe from their family. And then the kids all had face painting. And then they watched the Disney movie. I don't remember the name of it, but
I love it. He is really on fire. He's doing great things. And I love the Great 8 thing too. I think we need to.
It broke it down into something that everybody could accomplish. You know, you didn't have to learn anything technical, but you just had to get acquainted with your 8 greats.
Yeah, I love it. We have a couple new people. Does anybody else have anything to share from their wards that's been successful this year, or something that's not been successful that we can avoid? Well, if as people come in, maybe we'll pause here and there and see if there's anybody who comes in might have a thought or two. So we'll move to the second point then. And that's our theme for next year. Let me show you really quick here. Who just came in?
Edward and Michelle.
Oh, okay. Am I sharing my screen? Can you see anything on my screen?
We're seeing your desktop.
Okay, good. All right. So let me go to this. I'm going to show you our theme, courtesy of our illustrious, Heather. Here it comes. 2022 family history theme is coming to our senses. Yay!
That's so cute.
We're going to prepare for the 1950 census, which is coming out next year, because that will be massive indexing for that, and a 10-year Temple to Temple 5K 10-year anniversary. So we're going to be focusing on those things. So these are going to be this is going to be a poster that we're going to have in the various wards. I'm trying to make it so I can do the whole thing at once.
The minus sign at the top. Yeah, click that.
There you go. We're going to make bigger posters and put them in all of your buildings and at the Family History Center, just to get everybody excited about the census next year. Whether it's to index the census, we're going to really teach a lot about indexing and learning how to use the census. That's going to be our main goal, to learn how to use the census. And also, just so you'll know, it's not just the 1950 census. We're going to majorly be indexing that, but the 1921 England census is coming out next year.
Nice.
So that will be great. And we're not sure if they're going to have an indexing thing with that, but if so, we'll hop on board with that as well. So
Yeah, I have some English heritage.
yeah, it's going to be great for picking up those people we haven't been able to find. So let me stop sharing my screen here if I can get to where it go. There it goes. Okay, now back. All right, so one of our goals, we have 2 main goals. Our one goal is to help every member of the stake learn how to index and how to use the census. That's not too hard, do you think? Everybody in the whole
In 2 stakes.
3 states. So that's one goal. We're going to try our best to do that. And the other goal is to help members learn how to find an ancestor or a relative, so that people who are doing the Temple to Temple run will have somebody to take with them. And if they're not doing the Temple to Temple run, they will at least learn how. So those are the 2 goals. And the way we hope to achieve those goals is by our activities and our classes. First of all, we'll still have our classes. They'll be every Sunday evening at 7. And our training is always the second Sunday of the month. And it will cover the census and indexing. So every month we're going to teach you some new facet of the census, whether it's the US Census, the English Census, the Canadian Census, various censuses around the world. We're going to show that. We're going to teach you little bits of that every month so that you can be proficient at it, and then you can turn around and help others how to do that as well. So on our other goal with the Temple to Temple run is that we're going to have activities that are going to focus on how to find a name also. So every month we have the third Saturday. We're putting it on the calendar in the morning to either have a big activity or a small activity. So for example, and I'll send you the calendar after I get it approved and everything from the state. But so far what we have on the calendars in January, we're going to have a big kickoff for the year. So we're going to have a big breakfast and how to use the census, how to find your great eights in the census. Nancy had that idea. I love that. So try and help people to find their eight greats in the census. So that will be a good activity. And we don't know exactly everything else we're going to do, but I'd kind of the thought that with what we're doing in our ward next week, I thought if we could make it a family thing also, where people could come with their children and we could have activities for them as well. But we'll talk about that later. But just so you know, it's going to be a big event in January. And then in February and March will be a little event. We're just going to have a little party, we'll call it. It's going to be an indexing and find a relative party where people can just come and do hands-on and just learn as they go. And of course, we're always going to have food. That's our main thing, is food. Then in April, we'll have another big party. This is our big indexing party to kick off the 1950 indexing. So I don't know what we'll set a goal for the 3 stakes of how many names that we hope to do to help in this endeavor, because the faster it gets indexed, the faster people can find themselves on there. In fact, how many people will be on the 1950 census? Raise your hand.
Parents. My parents.
I shouldn't make you raise your hand.
Now we have to admit how old we are.
I'm 3 years shy. So that will be fun. We can hurry and do it so that we can find John and Nancy and Brother Hugo and the Sparks on it. That would be really fun. We could do that as soon as it's indexed. That could be our culminating activity of the year. So in May we don't have a real activity scheduled because we're hoping to have a booth for Cinco de Mayo. If they have Cinco de Mayo, that would be kind of fun. And maybe we'll recruit some of you to help with that and just to drum up some business or just help people with their ancestors.
Do we have anybody who translates things into Spanish?
Well, we actually have sister. She is her main name Alan or Jessica is her name. She's helping the Tapias on Sunday nights now, and she's fluent in both. So we could probably get her on board.
Okay.
Unless any of you are fluent in both. Unknown.
Also, just try typing it into Google Translate and see what you get back.
Okay.
When Diane is talking about that we want to have a booth at Cinco de Mayo, what she is referring to is Provo City always has a Latino festival downtown on Center Street by the courthouse for one weekend in May. And they have all kinds of Latin American activities. And so that's where we would like to have a booth, is for that holiday party.
Thank you, Nancy, for clarifying that. Then in June, we have another big event, and that's going to be to help find names of ancestors, especially for people who are going to do that temple to temple run. But it will be for anybody, of course, but that's going to be our main focus. Then July will just be a small activity for fun, just get together and have a party again, just to do indexing and find a relative. August is another big activity like we had a few years ago. Now, all of this is contingent on COVID. If we have another huge outbreak, things are going to change, but we're going to pray and hope that, Michelle's husband is bilingual. She can recruit him. Okay.
Ew.
August, we're going to have a Hispanic conference like we did a few years ago with dinner, with lunch. And Jessica may help with that. And hopefully maybe we can get somebody from Family Search as well. Then September will be another just little activity again, just get together and have a party and do indexing and finding names. Then October, we had to cancel this year because of COVID, but next year, October, we're going to do the Native American conference again. What was it that we were doing slash? I can't remember, Helen.
We're going to be presenting on how to use a census and researching Native American history, family history.
I was going to teach another one too. What was the other one I was going to do at the same time? Oh, Hispanic, because we didn't do it in August. Never mind. Okay. So those are our big activities for the year. November, December, we won't have anything because it gets too a little bit overwhelming for everybody. So we're kind of hoping to plan really fun things during the year and at least opportunities for people to come and to learn and to be a part of it, whether it's at an activity or a class that Nancy teaches. In fact, Nancy said she's going to start the basics again, right, Nancy? You're going to start.
Yes, we'll start in January with very, very basics of Family Search and then progress. I think it'll probably take us, probably through April or something along those lines.
Well, it's going to be really good. We're going to try and hit the basics with Nancy's classes, with just learning how to use a census, with learning how to index. These are all things that are basics and extremely helpful, whether you're researching or you're on the other end of getting information. So we're kind of excited about next year. And let's see, at some point, we're hoping to start family history classes in Spanish. Jessica said she'd be willing to do that. It might be on a Sunday evening. And at some point, we might try and do a beginning computer class. I was thinking maybe on Wednesday night, where our computer geniuses are on Wednesday night. But we'll think about that. But if you think of, if you have people in your ward that just don't even know how to use a computer, that might be a good place to start.
Diane, my
Yes.
class in a couple of weeks is going to be titled something along the lines of Computer Tips and Tricks for Family History, Things Your Third Grader Probably Already Knows.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. Awesome. Okay, so now for the last ending part of my class, our training is, I wanted to just do some census examples, just to show you how to use a census just a little bit. Sorry. So let me share my screen. All right, I'm going to go over 3 censuses, the US, the English, and the Canadian, and how, just show you a little bit, just really kind of quickly. Like I said, that's going to be a short class since we didn't have people coming and sharing. So here we go. If you want to get to the census on Ancestry, there's 2 different ways. It's down here if you click on the Ancestry logo. Oh.
It's
Okay. Well, anyways, it's usually right there on my homepage, but for some reason they've moved it. No, it's on my regular computer. Oh, that's weird. It's just not on my laptop.
There's always more than one way to find something on a computer.
I know. It's like, where on earth? Isn't that weird? It's on my, there's a different screen on my laptop than there is on my regular computer. That is just weird. Oh, well, anyways, you go here to search, and their second item is census and voter lists. You can see over here to the right, the three main collections are the US, UK, and the Canadian. But let me just tell you that there's more. You see right here where it says view all and card catalog. Say you come from an obscure country that's not listed here, or not an obscure country that's not listed here. Just click on view all, and there's 604 entries, which you can filter. Let's say you have somebody from Australia. You could filter them there. Let's say you have somebody from another place. Oh, brother. How about, okay. It's not being very cooperative with me right now. I should have practiced more. Okay, well, here's another country. Let's say Mexico. There's the Mexico census. So you can play around with that and see if you can find the country that you're interested in and see if they have a census. And in case I'm sure you all know what a census is, but just in case, a census is where they try to find out how many people there are and who they are. You know, like during Jesus's time, they had a census. They had to go to Nazareth. Thankfully, we don't have to go to our town of origin to get the census nowadays. They come to us. And in these three countries here, they're every 10 years. In the US, they're on the zeros. In the UK and Canada, they're on the ones. The United States starts in 1790, although they're very bare bones, 1790, 1800, 1810, 1820, 1830, 1840. Each of them have unique features, but they're basically just name the head of the household, and then they'll have categories of how many children are in each age group. Then by 1850, they start giving names, and then it becomes a little more helpful. And then each census after that gives you a little bit more information. And and I could tell you all the little different things, but you know, you'll forget them anyways because it's so quickly told. So we can go over that in our training meetings next year. So right now, I just want to give you a quick little search on that, on each one. Here's the US Census. And if you scroll down, you can see all the different years. Well, I'm going to go to the 1880 census for this example, because I want to find one of my greats. This is actually a great. This is Solomon Kenrich. And actually, he is just my great-grandfather. I always think of him as a great-great because he was born in 1830. But he had two separate families, and my grandfather was the youngest in the second family. So that's why my great-grandfather was born in 1834, which is a very long time ago. So his name is Solomon Kenrich. Now you notice these little exact things. Well, I don't trust the census. They're not, especially with a name like Kenrich, and actually it was Kuhnreich when they first came to United States, and Solomon, they could really watch that. I don't trust in exact, especially with census takers. So I'm going to click these little buttons right here, and my default is I clicked all three of them. Sounds like similar, and I always do initials too, just because it's easier to not have to think about it. So then his birth, I have that he was born about 1834. And again, sometimes they don't always tell the truth because it depends on who's giving the information. I think my dad is this age. I'm not sure. So again, my default is I like to do plus or minus 5 years. Then I know that he was born in Ohio. And I know that he was living in Illinois at that time because that's where his children were born, specifically my grandfather. So now I'm going to do a search. Now this is going to make you laugh when you see this. Look at that. They came up with, the search engine came up with A. Kimmel, but there's a little pencil next to it, which means, there's something wrong here and somebody's fixed it. Wife's name is Cora. Let's click on it and just see if it's my guy. View record. Yep, somebody's actually written Kenrich underneath it. Somebody has already corrected this. And they put Solomon Kenrich here. So someone has, and there's an ability where you can go in here and you can make a request for an update. And then when I look at the children, it's like, oh yeah, these are all the first names that I'm familiar with. This is my family. This shows you how indexers can totally botch. I mean, as it is, the census takers oftentimes botch your last name, but then you get the indexers and they really sometimes make havoc with your last names. So sometimes you have to be creative. But if you look at this nice little census here, click on A, and since they've already corrected it up here, you can see, I'm not sure, can you see that? I have to move you guys. Where are you? Okay, I'm gonna move you. How do I move you? I'm gonna move you down here, or over here, there. Okay, so for Solomon Kenrich, look at all these nice little suggested records we have here. There's a find a grave. And let me just show you a quick trick here. If you do a right click on find a grave, you can actually click open link in new tab, and that way you don't have to lose your census. You can have two windows open at the same time.
Lovely.
Then here's a death certificate, which named his parents. Isn't that nice? Here's a marriage, but it's not for him. It's for his son. Isn't that awesome? Actually, that's my grandfather. There's the next census up, down, 1870. If I want to check out 1870 census and see if maybe there's extra children there. Look right here, Solomon Kenrich, all the way up to 1910, just before he died. See, that's his second wife. She was a lot younger than he was. So you can see it's really fun to get when you do your grade 8s, because you can get some fun information over here that you may not have had on him or his children. And then you can actually click on each one of these people in the family and you can see what records come up for them. Maybe there'll be a marriage record with a spouse named. Maybe there'll be 2 marriage records with 2 spouses. You just never know what might pop up and what actually may not pop up. But also they have this right here, find others who are researching it. If you click that, there might be a tree that has your family on it. So that's a US Census. So now let's go back. Click Census and Voter Lists, the UK Census. Now for this one, I'm going to do another great, I think this is a great-great-grandfather. This is George Galley. Again, it's kept those defaults for me because I had him there the last time, so it kept him just the way I liked it. And he was born about 1831. Again, I do the plus or minus 5 years. And he was born in Durham County, but let's say I didn't know that he was born in Durham County. Let's say I only know he was living there. I could leave that blank and I could just type Durham and click Durham, England and see if I can find him. Oh, I forgot to pick a specific census. We're going to do this one right here, 1861. Now, the nice thing about the English censuses is look at this. Where born in the US, it says what? It says Texas, Mississippi, Pennsylvania. Here it says Lumley. Isn't that nice? It tells you exactly where they were born. So if you're trying to find them on another census and you're not sure if it's the same person, you can look to see are they born in the same place? Or if you're trying to find a birth record, now you know where to go look. So this is a very, very wonderful, wonderful feature in the English census. So here's George, his wife Elizabeth. Jane, James, Elizabeth, and Mary Ann. And again, we've got these suggested records over here. Here we have England Select Marriages, which isn't this cool? George was married to Elizabeth Smith. There's her maiden name, his wife, and his father's name was George. If I click on Elizabeth, it tells me that her father's name was James. So I got a lot of information just by going to the census and looking at these cool little suggested records that are here. I can click on each child and see what's going on with them. Jane, who's my great-grandmother, that's why it's referring to Illinois, but isn't that nice? I'm on an English census and it's actually giving me a hint for Illinois. Okay, and finally we'll go look at a Canadian census. For this one, I'm going to pick the 1881. See how you just scroll down and you can get to this specific year, or like on the last one where I didn't hit the same year, you can do a search for all the censuses if you want to. It's 1881, and I don't have Canadian ancestors. This is just one of my clients. He was born about 1827. Again, I want to do plus or minus 5 years. And look at this cool thing for all of you Anne of Green Gables fans. From Prince Edward Island. She has a lot of ancestors from Prince Edward Island. So I'm going to look for Samuel. And there he is. And a lot of these, especially in Prince Edward Island, they have what they call lots. They don't always have, they'll have a town associated to it, but you're going to see a lot. So here's Samuel, and there aren't any suggested records for Samuel, but I can click on Anne and just click on some of the other family members, and there's a few things for Anne, and then I can click on some of these other children and see if there's any hints for them, and there may or may not be. But sometimes there are, sometimes there aren't. For Emma, there are. Look at all that for Emma. And here, I should have showed you the actual census itself. Sorry. Here's the Canadian census, what it looks like. And I really should have taken you in to look at it, because the one thing I always tell people is look at the actual census, because you never know how they're going to change things, or the different information you're going to see on here, like neighbors. I always like to see who their neighbors are. If they're Ross next door neighbors, or if the mother's main name is a neighbor, well, they're family. You know that they're probably family. But look at this Canadian census. They actually tell you what religion they are. Here's a Church of Scotland, Western Methodist. I don't know if B means Baptist or not. And he's Scotch blood. That doesn't mean he was born in Scotland, but that's his heritage. And he's a farmer. And he's married. So since I didn't show you the other censuses, we're actually going to go back because I want to show you them. Here is the Canadian, this is the English census right here. See, they have the town of, the rank, oh yeah, it's town of up here. Here they have the name, relationship, their condition, that means are they married or not, their rank, profession or occupation. Most of these are coal miners, which is true. That's what my family was. Where they were born, and here whether they're blind or deaf or dumb.
What year did the English census start?
The English census began in 1841, which is and that's actually the nice thing about the 1841 is they do give names, whereas in the US, the 1840 does not give the names of family members. 1841, it does give family member names in England. However, it doesn't tell you the town they were born in, but it does ask if they were born in that county or not, and they put yes or no. So the 1841 is helpful, very helpful. And right now they go up through 1911, but next year it'll be up to 1921. But they also have the 1939 census, which was just before the war. And that is an extremely valuable census because it gives you their exact birth dates and lists whoever's in their family. So those are very useful censuses.
A lot of Mormon pioneers then are going to be in the in the first couple of English censuses.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they will. Okay, let's go back to the US one. I did do the US one, didn't I? Because I showed you what his real name was. Actually, no, I didn't. Here it is. I can see why they had a hard time here. Can you tell? This is why they had a hard time. You can see Saul, and it looks like man. And that does look kind of like Kimmel, doesn't it? So Kenrick, but to a layman, probably just starting with indexing, they may not see that. And of course, I'm going to see it because I know it's my ancestor. And if you don't know who it is, you're not going to know. And here they give you their age, their relationship. He's a farmer, where he was born, where his father was born, where his mother was born. So the 1880 census actually starts giving you a lot more information than the ones before. They just get progressively better as they go. So I can tell you if we can get to this. The 1900 census, 1990 is gone. It's in England, it's in Canada, but in the US it's not because we had a fire. So there's only scattered remnants of the 1890, which has really been a pain for a lot of genealogists because you have that 20-year gap where children can be born and died or born and married between the censuses. So I just want to show you this 1900 census because it's a great, fabulous census. Here's Solomon. It gives you the month and the year they were born. And it tells you how old they were when they got married. Oh no, how many years they've been married. And my favorite part, it tells me that Korah had 7 children and 6 living. So I know to go look for a baby. Again, where born, where father born, where mother born. And then this is the naturalization column right here. The year of naturalization and whether you're or the year of immigration and whether you're naturalized or not. And then it tells you what your occupation is or what you're doing. Like a lot of these kids look, they're at school. So you can see why I love the census. The census is the backbone, really, of any genealogy that you're doing in the 1800s and the 1900s, because it helps you see where they're living at what time, so you can follow their progress. And they may have grandma living with them or great grandma living with them or an uncle or aunt living with them. It's always a wealth of information. And like I've shown you, you have these hints that can give you more information. So that is a little introduction to the census. So we're excited for next year. Are you excited to use the census? How many of you have experience using the census? Everybody. So I'm preaching to the choir.
Diane, this is Angel.
Yes.
Yes, I called my husband. I told my husband I'm just a lurker at this meeting because I'm not a consultant. But I had no idea the 1900 census would allow me to look at Ben's ancestors and see if they were naturalized tonight.
Oh,
so
good.
that actually
Yay.
answered a question. And I'm super excited to learn how to, I've come to all these.
I can help you find that naturalization record, by the way, if you need.
Oh, good. Yes. All right, good. So,
Well, good. At least it
this will
helps
be a-
somebody.
well, there'll be a fun year for me to learn.
Oh, good. Thank you, Angel. That makes me feel better. So anyways, we're excited for next year. If you already know how to use the census, then you're going to be on board helping us teach everybody else how to use the census and how to index so that we can get that 1950 census up and going really fast. Does anybody have any comments, or anybody who's come in new that has anything that has been successful in their wards, or give one more plea for that? Or do you have thoughts on how to energize a ward next year? Does somebody have thoughts on that? I mean, we had the great 8 thoughts from the ward in the South State. We have the quarterly goals that are happening in my ward. Oh, Michelle, were you saying something?
I was going to say, I don't know if this is helpful, but as I've been reading about my calling in the church handbook, it talks about a temple and family history plan that the temple family history leader of each ward comes up with the members of the ward council. And I don't know if you have members of the ward council who know your goals and aims, perhaps that might be helpful in energizing the ward to go that direction.
Yes, absolutely. And they have been encouraged to do that with their ward councils, but sometimes it doesn't happen. But that's exactly the plan. That's what should happen, because then everybody's on the same page and they're all on board with whatever's happening and then give input.
I think it's appropriate for all of us to ask our ward family history lead if we could have a copy of the ward's plan, because we're curious. And if they don't know, then maybe we can tactfully figure out a way to comment on that. I asked for one of the lessons I did, I asked my counselor in the bishopric if I could have a copy of our wards, and it was about 5 years old. And so I hope that me discussing that briefly with the counselor in the bishopric might help that be updated. And if the family history lead would come to this meeting, maybe they would get the idea of some things they would like to put in that family history plan. And it doesn't have to be earth-shaking. It can be something simple, like for the last half of this year, for the first half of next year, we'd like everybody to figure out who their 8th grade are and learn something about them by reading memories, and maybe find a picture of them, and maybe that's enough for a few months.
Or even find their parents have the goal to find their parents on the census.
That's what would like really to stress next year is, maybe the ward plan will say in January or soon thereafter, every ward member will be encouraged to find their parents in the census.
Well, I think it wouldn't be a bad idea if wards also just wanted to adopt the state's goal, which, we just showed up, like the having an ancestor at the temple to K, and then, learning. I mean, there can be, I guess, more explicit goals, but I think also just adopting the state goals could be like, okay, this is our ward plan now. Like, we're going to.
Easier for them, that's for sure. Then they don't have to, they can just take it to their ward council and say, hey, what do you think? And they can hate it or love it. So.
And it's the ward family history lead that goes to those ward council meetings and that can make things happen.
So that's what ours does.
I've just been to been invited to the last couple of ward councils, and it has been so gratifying to see our ward council wrestle with the plan, because the bishop keeps telling them that, according to what it says, it's supposed to be the ward council's plan, that they're supposed to come up with it. And he said, how can we be a voice of a plan that we have no experience in? How can,
Good for him.
And I'm just, Oh
I
my
love
gosh,
it.
cheering, sitting in my chair, just cheering. And he goes, I want you to all go home and watch these videos and say what, this video, that the churches come out with, those different Roots Tech ones that the general authorities do. And say, what are you going to do with your family? What we've been charged to do this with our as individuals. What would be your plan for your family? And then come back and say, what kind of experience was that? How can we translate that into a word? And I'm just going, oh my gosh, this is like
Your
manna from
prayers have
heaven
been
for me to be
answered.
sitting in this ward council to see the bishop and one of the counselors to challenge all the members that are in there and not take, well, it's because I've got little kids, or all the normal things. It was just textbook for any one of us to have been in that meeting, to not just had rockets red glare going around. So anyway, that's my
Really is the
success
key.
and
The bishops.
story that I hope you all have.
That would be so nice to hear those stories, for sure.
I don't know if there's anything that this crowd is supposed to do about this, but our lead is inactive. So it has been for the last few months. So
Seriously inactive? I mean, not just gone on vacation or something?
no, definitely inactive. Definitely.
I think I took your lead some honey. Oh man. Well, we'll work on our high counselors on that end to see what they can do about
I'm sure that the bishop is seriously aware of that.
Yeah. We need to make sure that the bishops are on board. We can't make sure of it, but our high counselors can. They can do that. So we'll work from our end on that. Any more thoughts or words of encouragement like Helen gave us? At least things are going well there.
I think that once this ward plan comes forward, that when I know that a problem in our stake is frequent turnover. I think that when you've got a good plan of specifics, not just encourage members, that then it's easier for the next person that comes in to say, oh, this is what I'm working on. And it kind of gives them a place to start. Oh, these are some of the things we want to accomplish this next year. 1 month, we're going to concentrate on encouraging members to get the app on their phone. This month, we're going to encourage people to find their parents in the census. This month, we're going to encourage people to index the census. And then they move, but the next family history lead can say, oh, that was what the plan was. Do we continue it? Yes. And it keeps going. I think that that's very important to have that written plan.
Oh. Helen put something in the chat if you all want to look at it with a link. If anybody wants to get that link and look at it. She said, go ahead, Helen. Go ahead.
We just got a new Relief Society presidency, and they had expressed interest in doing more with family history. And so because they expressed it, I came across this video by Catherine Grant from BYU Family History Library. And it's about moving family history forward in the ward or stake. And that was very helpful. And I just sent the link to them and have them forward it to the Elders Quorum president and also to the bishop. And then I'm just kind of waiting to see what happens after this.
Yeah, and I think like Nancy said, that's why a plan is so important, because you need something to hold you to the rod type of thing. You need, if you don't have a plan, you have nothing to go back to, nothing to remind you. So I can talk to the 3 high counselors and just hoping that they're encouraging the high counselors in their council to talk to bishops and encourage them to and, make sure they have an active family history lead and someone who will help get the plan get off the ground in the ward council. So that'll be my job. Then I'll talk to the high counselors about that. Any other thoughts? Well, we're excited. We're going to have a nice little break in December. We won't have training, and we have what, 1 or 2 more classes, Nancy?
Next week it will be on using Google in your family history. There's lots of ways to use Google that we don't even think of, far beyond a Google search. And then the week after that, which is the first week in December, it will be computer tips and tricks. I think it's especially good for people in my children's age group or older. I helped a sister this last week from Oregon who wanted to get her aunt's obituary into Family Search and had no clue how. And among the things that she hadn't learned yet was how to make a selection, like going to the obituary in the newspaper online and select all of the words in the obituary and then do cut and copy, or do Control C for copy, and then move that into either a Word doc or else directly into memories. And she had no clue how to do that. It was really a very basic computer lesson. And so that's some of the things I'm going to talk about, is how to do cut and paste and copy, and how to use a little bit of a word processor. And if you don't have a word processor, how to use Google Docs, and how to color code your files in your documents and in your pictures, and some tricks like that are so helpful that probably we would learn if we were in Pam Mo's class at Franklin Elementary, but that I have had to learn step by step.
Thank you,
And
Nancy.
so
That'll be
I
great.
think that there might be others who want to learn some of those things.
Oh, John, yes.
Our attention.
Yeah, I just want to make a comment on the thought that came to me when we're talking about the inactive person. And maybe this is a situation where we can help somebody. If the bishop called somebody to do a job like that, and the person's inactive, maybe the bishop was trying to help them get involved in something that could get them active, give them a job that is not a churchy job, but a job that is, that they could learn. And it would scare a person to death if he didn't know anything about us. Even if they came to one meeting and listened, they would be overwhelmed. So maybe your ward, the bishop, somebody needs to sit down and help that person, or have the bishop sit down and give him a PPI. And, rather than releasing, we'll take anybody. I think anybody in Family Search, we've had people who we welcomed with open arms who are not members. But
also, this might be a situation where the bishop is helping him already work on what in today's language we call a crisis of faith, or something along those lines.
Exactly. So rather than making a suggestion to get rid of him, maybe we need to have him trained. I was in priesthood meeting this morning, and you got a bunch of young, newly married guys, and they were in interviews. You go in and you take 10 minutes introducing everybody in the crowd, or everybody in the class, the group, about what they do, and 3 or 4 of these guys say, "Well, I really don't do anything. I just go to school." And I asked the question. I said, "Well, everybody has something to do. Have you considered the thousands of people on the other side of the veil are waiting for you to do their family history work?" And 2 guys came up to me after and said, "Oh, okay, how do we get started?" and I refer to him to Brother Marriott. I didn't know he's leaving the ward, but and then I think we need to generate a lot of the enthusiasm in our own wards, in our own state, that is going to be generated. So it's crazy what's happened in Family Search to those of us that have been around a long time. When I was a bishop, there was absolutely no influence from the church. There was nothing on family history. I mean, maybe something, but nothing that was really emphasized. And today, it's just you're getting the kids do it, and everybody knows about it, and it's just something that we need to stay enthusiastic about. And we're doing missionary work, by getting people involved to do missionary work on the other side of the veil. And it just, anyway, I just had that thought, so I'm done talking now. So
Thank you, John. That's a very good thought. I appreciate that. And I think you're right as well as the calling thing. That's very, very important. Thank you. But I think also what you said about us generating the enthusiasm is we can change people's mindset. For years, people have thought it's something you do when you're retired, and they think that you have to have gray hair to do it. And I think we can change that by just with our enthusiasm. If we just bring treats with us to church or something, pass them out if they do their family history. If they give you their grade 8s or whatever, you can do something on your own, whether you're called in your ward or not. You are a stake person, because if you're serving in the Family History Center, you do have a calling for that.
Diane, I've got a question. So I got, each individual that I talk to, will tell me why they're not doing it or why it's so hard or whatever. So today I got one, and I didn't know what to really say to him and so I want to put it out to everybody. So this one was her reaction from her parents that were so frustrated with these young kids that are getting online and trying their hand at Family Search, and then changing something which deletes part of the line that they worked on forever, and then they have to go work through the church to not have this thing be merged that was incorrect. What do I do to calm her fears on having her 11-year-old son, get ready with his priesthood preview to get his name to be able to take to the temple when he turns 11?
Just tell him, if it's broken, I can fix it.
all changes that somebody makes can be changed. And yes, it's a bother. Yes, it bugs you, but it all can be changed. There is a place on the right-hand column of the screen when Family Search is open to a details page. And one of the things it will say is see changes and see more changes. And you click on those and you can go back and see the merge and undo the merge, or see the spelling name and undo it. It is.
So it must have been like before when we couldn't.
Well,
it still can be a pain. Sometimes they're in there and you can't undo the things that are there. But if we can help change their mindset to it being like a game. For me, fixing Family Search is one of my favorite things to do, because it's kind of like a puzzle. It's like I got to figure out, okay, who belongs here and who belongs here. Okay, they messed it up. Now, oh boy, I get to see if I can fix it. If we can help them see that it's more of a fun challenge to fix mistakes rather than a pulling your hair out type thing, then maybe they'll look at it a little more positively. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. But that's just what she's heard from her parents, who are, been genealogists forever. So she just, she's got that mindset. And
tell her that there's other genealogists that have done it forever, like Nancy and I. We've done it since we were 13 or whatever, who don't get frustrated about that. And we've seen
I get frustrated every time somebody spells Michael, Michael. It's wrong.
The easiest thing would be to tell them to also put a tree on Ancestry where they
That
can't
can't be changed.
I agree with that one. That's the one I agree with.
play around with Family Search and you know.
Yeah, I always encourage them to have a separate database. You need to have it either in Ancestry or have it in Roots Magic or Ancestral Quest or something, so that
Well,
you
and
can
I
go
was
back
just-
and fix it.
Yeah, I was trying to be positive. So I said, well, what better way for your 11-year-old to learn how to do family history than from your parents that, you know, have spent all these years. This would be a great thing when you go visit him at Christmas to let him learn from the ACE people.
Well, that's exactly what you should have said. That's perfect.
But certainly things can
But
be
it was just
changed.
stumbled me for a while because it happened to us
Yeah.
a few years ago.
It does. And I tell you, I've spent half my time fixing Family Search, but it's got to a point now where it's kind of a fun challenge.
Yeah.
There you go. Good for you.
Diane fixed a major problem that I had no idea how to do anything with it, change it. And when I thanked her, she says, "Oh, thanks, that was a lot of fun." So
I'll just tell him that I've got a wizard in my pocket.
Do.
Sorry, it's just, I don't know. I just kind of find it fun. But maybe if it was my own ancestors, I might feel differently. But anyway, Helen, I think you answered her exactly right. The Spirit told you what to say and you said it. And I think that's the thing, is that the Spirit will tell us, you know. That's why the prophet keeps telling us to learn how to hear him, because in each of these, whether it's family history or ministering or whatever, the Lord puts thoughts in our minds and we just say them and we don't even realize it was him until later. So
We're pretty lucky people to have a secret weapon that shouldn't be secret, right?
the Lord, yeah. He's a really good secret weapon. He and all of his army.